Good morning, everyone. I hope you're wide awake this morning. I tell you what, it is such a pleasure and an honor to be back with you in person this year. And I just want to begin today by taking a moment to acknowledge that we are on the traditional lands of many nations, including the Anishinaabe, the Chippewa, the Haudenosaunee, and the Wendat peoples. And I'm grateful for the opportunity to be meeting on the Treaty 13 lands of the Mississaugas of the Credit First Nation. I want to reaffirm the Ontario Green Party's commitment to the truth and reconciliation process as we break down the systemic barriers that exist from the legacy of colonialism. And I am eager to work with you, Indigenous and non-Indigenous peoples, to reconcile and build a better future. You know, I feel a particular affinity with ROMA's annual meeting, partly because I grew up on a farm in a rural community, and I can relate to the unique joys of rural life, but also the challenges that rural communities face. And now I live in Guelph, and I represent a riding that's at the crossroads of urban and rural life, building a connection between urban and rural people that I hope that together we can strengthen to build a better Ontario in every community across this province. Colin, I want to thank you for your leadership of ROMA, and I want to thank each and every one of the municipal leaders in this room today for the good work that you do for our communities. You're dedicated people from a variety of backgrounds and political affiliations, setting your differences aside to work together for your communities. And I want to thank you for all that you do. I also want to acknowledge your job is not easy. And some of the things that happen at Queen's Park do not make it any easier. Some of you probably experienced or remember the downloading days of the Harris years. And you might have hoped that by now, the downloading of those costs would have been fully reversed. But they haven't. If anything, it's actually getting worse, with Bill 23 blowing a hole in municipal budgets at a time when each and every one of you are recovering from a once-in-a-century pandemic. And so I say to you today, it is time to do away with the heavy-handed downloading of costs from the province onto municipalities and to replace it with a new spirit of collaboration and cooperation. What does that mean? What does that really mean? It means giving municipalities the autonomy to implement revenue tools to fund the critical infrastructure and services for your communities. It means the province having to step up to become a partner in funding vital services like transit, libraries, community centers, parks, and municipal building retrofits. You know, municipalities are on the front lines of the drug poisoning, mental health, and homelessness crisis. Communities are suffering. Downtown businesses are facing major challenges, and under-resourced frontline social and healthcare workers are struggling to meet the demands of residents. We can and we must do better. I hear it repeatedly from municipal leaders. The Ontario government needs to step up and be a better partner for municipalities. There's only one taxpayer. And that's why the Ontario Greens are pushing for the province to upload 50% of housing and shelter costs while maintaining municipal control of management, restoring 50% of operating funding for transit services, an immediate commitment of $6.6 billion for community-based mental health and addiction services, and creating a $2 billion a year climate adaptation fund for municipalities. And that last ask may seem like a big one, but it's actually insufficient to meet the challenge that we face. The impacts of the climate crisis are already being felt, and rural communities are on the front lines. Wildfires, flooding, tornadoes, droughts, shoreline erosions along the Great Lakes. But as the old song says, you ain't seen nothing yet. And that's why I asked the Financial Accountability Officer to do an analysis of infrastructure risk in this province, and the risk from extreme weather events over current patterns for this province is $25 billion over the next 7 years of this decade. That's $6 billion for buildings, $6.2 billion for stormwater and wastewater, and $13.3 billion for transportation and transit. And as you know, municipalities are on the hook for most of those costs. You own all the stormwater and wastewater infrastructure, 80% of the transportation infrastructure, and 50% of the infrastructure related to buildings and facilities. So these numbers may seem overwhelming, but they tell an important story. Municipalities' already strained budgets are going to be hit hard. Too hard for the property tax base alone to pay for it. And that's why my team will do everything we can to work with you and advocate for you to reduce these risks and costs. And that starts with repealing Bill 23. Plugging the financial hole it puts in your budgets, ending the attack on conservation authorities, which have done so much to reduce the cost of flooding, and forcing the Premier to keep his often repeated promise not to develop the Greenbelt. The bottom line is we need a provincial government that respects rural municipalities, because we simply cannot afford to increase costs, reduce protections, and threaten rural economies, especially the food and farming economy. So I want to be clear. We have a housing affordability crisis. We need to increase supply, but it absolutely makes no sense whatsoever to suggest in any way that blowing up your budgets, handing over the Greenbelt to a handful of land speculators, and paving over the farmland that feeds us and the green space that protects us will in any way address the housing affordability crisis at all. Heck, even the government's own Housing Affordability Task Force said that we don't need additional land to build more homes. What we need are bold solutions, and that's why I've put forward solutions like ending exclusionary zoning, making it as of right to build fourplexes and four-story walk-up apartments to ramp up housing supply, cutting the red tape along major transportation corridors to help build mid-rise multi-unit dwellings so we can ramp up supply without the false choice of tall and sprawl, investing in building more affordable nonprofit and co-op housing once again so average working folks have an affordable place to live. Building permanent supportive housing with wraparound mental health and addiction support so everyone in our community has a safe place to live. That's why our plan's been called a masterclass plan in delivering the solutions we need to address housing affordability without paving over the places we love in Ontario. So I know rural communities have unique needs and unique challenges, and your voices are vital in building the communities your residents want. Prosperous, sustainable, affordable, and healthy communities where everyone has access to health care, education, and the services they need to thrive. And that will not happen without a provincial partner providing sustainable, predictable funding for critical infrastructure, such as a fully staffed, publicly funded health care system that respects nurses and frontline workers with fair wages, fair benefits, and better working conditions. well-resourced rural schools and affordable childcare, high-speed broadband and cellular services, reliable, affordable transportation connections, social assistance rates that eliminate the cost, the human and financial costs of legislated poverty, clean, efficient, affordable energy systems that help us electrify our transportation and buildings so we can reduce climate pollution and make Ontario a global leader in the fast-growing climate economy, creating the jobs of the 21st century. The Ontario we want is within our reach, and we will achieve it by working together across party lines, across urban and rural divides, and that's exactly what I commit to do at Queen's Park, to work with you to build the Ontario you want. So thank you for the work that you do. Thank you for allowing me to be here with you today, and know that my office is always open to you each and every day. Thank you. Thank you.